Hi, Peggy. Hey, Serena.
Hello.
Ooh, public input telephone. Oh, I'm glad, so glad that's labeled. All right.
AJ, do you know if we're expecting more people or Peggy?
But she probably notified.
I got you.
Thank you. I know Teddy's not able to make this meeting, but I presume she let you know. Hey, Margaret.
She declined. Teddy declined. Chuck was going to join us, but he was not able to make it. Lance has a monument. We're removing the Confederate monument this weekend, so we're starting staging tomorrow. So Lance is in a meeting for that. Everyone else, I believe, should be coming in. I haven't heard otherwise. Do we have a lobby for this, Serena, or do people just
No, it's just
flow in?
clicking
Just
the
flow
link.
in,
Yeah, exactly.
and then putting in the password. Okay. All right. Well. There we go. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Anne.
Hi, how is everybody?
I think all good for a Friday Eve.
Hey, Elizabeth, are you going to drive the agenda or should I?
I think you do an amazing job of driving the agenda. But
Okay,
if,
I will pull it up.
But if you would, oh, I mean, drive it as far as a PowerPoint. Yes, I will absolutely drive that. I meant drive the conversation. I'm like, no, you do a great job of that. Why would I want to step in? I will pull up the agenda and so that you can do your part.
I'm happy to do it as well if needed.
No problem. I will pull it up.
So I just forwarded the invite to Donna. She was having a hard time getting on.
Oh.
Oh, she's here. Great.
Yeah.
I just forwarded it to Phil. Oh, and he's on too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just got that message too.
Oh, Phil didn't have the invite either?
Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks for
Okay.
sending it. I couldn't find it. So I don't know what happened. I couldn't find Zoom invite. So thank you for just sending it.
My apologies. That would be on me. I will I'll make that adjustment. I will be sending out, instead of it coming out the week of, I will be sending out a series. So just accept the whole series. And then if you aren't able to make a particular meeting, then just send me or Ann an email saying you're not able to make it. That way it stays on your calendar and you don't have to go fishing for the invite.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much.
Sure thing.
All right, great. So let's see.
Supervisor Palmer, I believe you're muted.
True. I am muted. Thank you.
All right, let's.
Did you just say, EJ, that we need to let you and Ann know if we are coming? I thought we were just letting you know if we weren't.
If you aren't coming, I'm going to send out the series, the meeting series. So just accept the full series. And then if you're not able to make one particular meeting,
Okay.
for whatever reason, just shoot an email to Ann or to me. And that way we won't hold the meeting for anyone else coming in.
Okay.
Great.
And you would like an email rather than declining that particular meeting.
Exactly.
Okay.
Only because I find that sometimes, and I do it all the time, when it's a series and I go into decline, sometimes I decline the whole series and it just disappears.
You hit the wrong button instead of just for this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
one way
just
to free up your
easier.
schedule.
Okay, I'm not going to tell Lance I agreed with that. Absolutely not.
All right. Well, let's get going with attendance. And Peggy, I will just read out who I see on the attendance, and then we'll deduce who is absent. So we have Serena, Margaret, Peggy, Betsy, Soulsby, Christine, EJ, Liz, Phil, Donna, and Tom.
Thank you.
Oh, and Terry just joined. Oh, and Jesse just joined.
If you're not, if
They're coming on right now.
we could do
And
the
Teddy,
older-
unless she didn't email you, she said she wasn't available today. She's in a meeting.
Yeah, Teddy said she would be absent.
Hey, everybody. Sorry.
Hey, Jesse. So I think we got everybody. And then EJ, I see the public input telephone is now live. So that's good that we can see that. Okay, good. Great, guys. Hello. Welcome to our SWAAC meeting. I did actually, I invited Chuck Regal to join. He said he was interested, in participating. We'll see whether he pops on or not. So why don't we get started? And I think our first piece of business is, I'm hoping folks had a chance to review the minutes from our August SWAAC meeting, which was a big one. And want to make sure that, we feel like everything we needed was on that. And if so, I would like to hear a motion to approve the August minutes.
Sure, I make a motion to approve them as submitted. I thought they looked good. As usual, Peggy, thank you.
Any second out there?
I'll second.
All right, everybody who would like to approve the August minutes, please say aye.
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 Anybody who declines? Okay, good. We're got those approved and out of the way. Oh, Lance is not here, right?
That's
Okay.
correct. He's working on, we're moving a monument this weekend, so he's in a
Gotcha.
pre-meeting.
Okay, all right. Because I do want to follow up with him on some of these old business items. So maybe, Peggy, could you just put that as an action item for me to email Lance on the status of the Chapter 13 revision? It's been a long time. I just want to see where that stands.
Okay.
I don't have any other updates on the discussion with Braskem. I owe them a follow-up on that. I do know folks have been pretty busy. They launched this polypropylene recycling coalition, and that seems to be taking up a lot of people's time. We did ask people to take a look at the SWAAC web pages and the sort of waste and recycling information on the county website. Did anybody have a chance to do that? And is there any comment on that? Because I looked at it and neither Margaret or Peggy were listed as SWAAC members. So
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that they were added.
Anne, did you look at I haven't looked at it in a while. When I first looked at it, all I could find was the committee stuff. I couldn't find any of the pages that you guys worked on. And I was told they were coming up, maybe. So I haven't gone back since then.
Yeah, you know what? They are up.
Okay.
They're pretty deep in the website. You have to go to FES, or if at the beginning on the very front, like search, if you ask like recycling, like how do I recycle? It'll drop you down into the right spot. It's not obvious how to navigate there. We had the same problem. The communications committee was going through it. And I found the easiest way to get there was making a query on that initial search bar on the new site. But we're there, like our FAQs and some information about us is listed under FES. EJ, can you confirm that I am right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. And that's exactly the strategy that went into the configuration of the new website. Most people don't know about SWAAC. Most people don't know about the majority of our commissions, but they do want to know about recycling. So it becomes the query at the beginning that leads them through it.
Yeah, so if you typed in like, how do I recycle batteries? It would drop you down to our FAQs.
Exactly.
So I think it takes a little bit of getting used to that, you know, just the navigation structure, but, you know, from what we could tell, everything was there. I think when we get to some questions about when we want to put some of our performance information, I think that'll be an important discussion, because that's, I mean, maybe somebody would write, how much do we recycle in Albemarle County? But, you know, I'd like to think that through when we do that. I would encourage everybody to please go to those pages. I mean, once you're there, it's easy then to navigate around, and you can see under FES, there's sort of a spot for waste and recycling, and you can kind of browse around in there. But I would like everybody to take a peek at that and provide any feedback to Serena, as, you know, I think this is the time to do it.
Yeah, can I add something? This is Christine, and I had looked at it, and I just found there is that heading solid waste and recycling. But if you want to get any information on composting, you know, there is under the FAQs something there. But if I just type in the search bar composting, like nothing comes up that really explains that there is a composting program. There's information, but nothing directly. So it's very circuitous to try to get any information about that in particular.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, so maybe maybe Serena, that's a bit of a follow-up with our communications subcommittee and you to just figure out how we might be able to create a little bit more exposure there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you have certain like key terms that you want people, if you anticipate people searching for compost, we would add that tag specifically to places where that information exists. I'll also point you to, there's in the community, which is at the very top, it's community, government, business, and how do I? Under community and living here, there's a link to trash and recycling. And we could just as easily put something about composting there that would take you directly to. So the idea behind the website is that we anticipate most users will come and use the search bar as their first method to find information, and then navigate from that top bar, the community, government, business, and how do I, because we don't anticipate people would know that compost information would be specifically housed in FES, but it does have to go somewhere. So, but if you do have information that you find hard to reach, we can think of strategies to kind of daylight that for the public.
Could we make our heading trash, recycling, and composting?
Right, yes, and right now I think it's solid waste. Let's see, let me see it. Trash, recycling. Yes, we can certainly do that.
And then
But actually, I think
we
we do. I'm sorry, we do need information about composting. We need some content there.
I think that's
so before we put that header, we need that content.
Yeah.
So there is on the FAQ a composting section. City and county residents are able to take their food waste and compost to McIntyre Recycling or the IBMUC.
So Anne, can we workshop this in our committee? Because I agree, I think it would be good to put a section on composting, you know, where there's recycling trash, but I'm not sure that trying to do that as a whole.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is good. So let's make that an action item for the outreach and communications subcommittee. And then we will follow up with the whole committee on what we decide.
That's a good catch, Christine, though. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah. So then, you know, I had asked each of the subcommittees to work on their, you know, review their charters and goals, their sort of annual goals. So we'll just wait for that report out during the subcommittee report outs. I did want to take just a bit of time, since this was a big part of last month's meeting, is just to get, you know, reactions and feedback on the presentation from GPI and Scott DeFife. And, you know, I'm trying to think about, you know, maybe we could have some speakers on a regular basis on different topics, but just be interested in feedback and on that part of the meeting last month.
I thought it was really exciting, and it would be so cool to get one of those purple bins.
Yeah.
And the, you know, the possibility of working with the wineries and breweries in Albemarle County, because I bet most of them have no idea where all that glass is, you know. I think there's an opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and I will say I was so jazzed. I could barely go to sleep that night. I mean, I was like so excited. So I reached out to Devil's Backbone, the sustainability director, because she did a survey over in the Valley about if there's interest in recycling. She partnered with the economic development. But anyway, she is meeting with Scott. Like it created some nice buzz. Mm-hmm. And Scott said that he'd like to try to convene, he would be open to convening a group of interested wineries, breweries, like people like my contact over there and myself in October, early October.
Yeah, so he and I have been talking about that because I actually thought we could be a bit of the catalyst for that. And I think part of that is because there's so much interest in Albemarle County, I would like to, you know, make sure we stay in that conversation. So I had actually talked to him about us helping to facilitate that. Nice. So that was one of the questions I had for you all. Is that something that we're interested in doing? Is that an appropriate role for us? What is feedback on that. Because if so, I can reach out to him and say, hey, we could help bring that together.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's appropriate and something we desire. We set that as a goal with the operations subcommittee to see how we could connect these last mile users of big, I'm sorry, things have gone all the heck on my side.
Hey, we're all used to it.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's how we can connect those folks. So if step one is outreach, then we'd be happy to help host, whatever that looks like.
Okay. All right. Does anybody think it's a bad idea? All right. Well, let's make that an action item that the SWAAC will follow up with Scott DeFife, and I will lead that since I talked to him quite a bit.
My only comment, Anne, with that is that then it limits a little bit of the discussion. Like if there are enthusiastic regional interests, like Nelson County, I don't know if because SWAAC would be facilitating, that would be a limiting factor with who was on the call. And
I don't think so, because Nelson is part of our authority, right? I'm not sure, but I thought Nelson, Green, and the other, they're all part of our plan.
TJPDC.
Yeah.
TJPDC,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because I think I was thinking it would go beyond Albemarle County. So, we would invite anybody interested from within TJPDC to be part of it.
Gotcha.
I mean, for exactly that reason, I think that's a great point, Terry. I wouldn't want to limit this to just Albemarle, but in the area. And I think we're in a good position to sort of instigate that meeting for the area.
Phil, do you have any concern that this would compete with the drop-off centers for material, or is that not an issue at all?
It's, in my view, it's not an issue at all. I mean, if it's getting recycled, isn't that sort of great? We make $25 a ton when we sell it to Strategic Materials. No one's, I would guess that's in the neighborhood of break even, but it would be just. So no, I don't. If it comes to us, it comes to us. If it doesn't, it just means we run fewer trucks.
Yep.
That said, and I've tried to say this before, is if we can be a resource and part of the solution, we're glad to do that too. Because I think we've got that.
Absolutely.
The part to get it to Wilson, I think we've got that kind of in a sustainable, sort of manageable path.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just say one thing real quick before you move on? I think I said at this one or the ops one that I was going to call him. I haven't had a chance to call, but the reason why was I wanted to see about talking to our board about trying to do something through VACO on the state level. If we need, some kind of encouragement grant. Bill, I don't know. I did talk to Ann Malik about it, and we've just been so slammed. I haven't kind of gotten that together yet to talk to him. But anyway, just as a follow-up on that end.
Sure.
Could we partner with some of the Northern Virginia jurisdictions who are already doing something similar than Liz with
that's the idea,
a state effort? Okay.
Bringing it to VACO, seeing who's doing it where, and seeing how we can work with other, in a broader sense. Yeah, Margaret, that's kind of the thought.
Cool.
Liz,
Like Fairfax,
sorry.
Arlington, those counties are, yeah, cool.
What does VACO stand for? I'm sorry, is that VACO?
Virginia Association of Counties.
Okay, thank you.
I was going to ask the exact same question.
Anne is our liaison to VACO for the board, and that's why I brought her into it. Okay.
I'm sorry, who did you say is the liaison from the board?
Ann Malik.
Oh, great.
Could we reach out to one of the trash collection companies and see what, if we could get 40 wineries to sign up for a front load container, what would they charge for those? Or 20 or whatever we think we can get. I I think front load is probably the best collection method for this, or a carded system, one or the other. But I think if we got a trash company thinking about this, we can get an idea of what the cost would be, and then go from there. Because everyone wants to recycle. It's just, do you really want to pay for it? And I think roll off is going to be way too expensive. So either carts or front load would be the right application.
Do you think we need to worry about breakage with front load though, with it, dumping?
Well,
I mean, I guess most of it would be green.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's an issue, if it would be mixing, colors of cullet. Just something to think about, when we're looking at collection options.
Yeah. So Tom, I don't think you were at the last meeting, but one of the things is that GPI has started a foundation that you can apply for grants for some of this stuff. I don't know all the details, but it sounds to me like we could potentially get some of the collection infrastructure subsidized through GPI.
Right. Well, good. Yeah, I mean, I think you need it. It's not really a big money maker for the trash companies, but we were talking about during the operations meeting, if it's all going in the trash now, they should be able to save money on their trash bill because it's very heavy.
Yeah.
They should be able to get lighter, a lighter trash rate.
Yeah.
If everyone thinks it through, but yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I reached out to Time Disposal to ask him that exact question, Tom, and this is just one data point, but he wasn't very interested in himself. But there you go.
Hey, for those of us that aren't entirely certain what the difference is between a front load and a carting thing, can somebody explain that to me so I have a clearer picture in my head?
So a cart is a 96-gallon cart like you have at a residence, typical recycling cart, and a front load container is a dumpster behind a Magic Market kind of thing.
Okay, gotcha. All right, so if we're done with that discussion, I feel like we have some direction there. Let's move on to the outreach and communication committee. I am pleased to say that Christine is the new lead for that committee. So Peggy, you want to lead the report out?
Me?
I'm sorry, not Peggy. I'm sorry, Christine. I was reading your name, Peggy. I mean, Christine, do you want to do the report out?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So we met, and Peggy and I did a webinar for the Jefferson Madison Regional Library, and wasn't a big group of people, but we had probably there's like 13 people listening in. But the cool thing about it is that they leave the material up on the website, and it was recorded. So, and we were able to get sort of our list of resources up. So that information will be there and accessible to people who are interested in the topic. So I thought that was great. And so thanks to Peggy, she did all the work changing around our presentation, and we've got it ready to go, because we also are going to be presenting in November to the Rivanna Master Naturalist, and also possibly to a couple other organizations. So that was really great. And we talked also about the possibility of putting something together that is focused for school age children, and the possibility of getting that into the schools. And so that's something for us to work on. And thinking about the ambassador program, what we can do to keep that moving forward. And there's a big question mark there. So how we can possibly do it. We did talk about the county website a little bit, and we set some goals for what we would like to do, which is continue to push that ambassador program forward, especially as soon as it is actually possible to move it there with volunteers. And then, you know, doing more of these webinars. And then really what I'm excited about is this idea of using the social media to create like a recycling tip a month. And Serena gave me some ideas about for post, like some of the criteria for setting that up. And I've been thinking a lot about bears. And if you guys, with everybody, I'd like to just like, and I looked at a couple different websites like Asheville, North Carolina, on their municipal website, they have some tips about how to prevent bears from getting.
Hi, how are you?
So I've been thinking a lot about that.
Good.
So
I'm on a call, but I'm like going, I know you need information, so I'm happy to give it to you.
Around tips for keeping bears out of the trash. And
yeah, I think that's, you know, we would love to get, I would say, you know, any ideas from people on things that they would like, you know, that we were thinking that we could take advantage of the social media that the county does and, you know, insert some of our own stuff. So we all had some of our pet topics, but it would be great for the committee to just send ideas, because I think this would be a really great way for us just to create more exposure.
Okay, sounds great. Okay.
Yeah, I think another thing that would be right up there would be, you know, don't keeping plastic bags out of the recycling bin, especially for people, you know, that have a service that's picking it up. I think so many people still tend to put their recycling in a plastic bag into the bin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, mine is propane tanks.
There you go.
At the end of the grilling season, let's make sure we do something with those.
All right.
Christine and Peggy, the presentation that you gave, was it able to be interactive? Did you get, you know, any good questions from participants of that might help in, you know, help give us ideas for good outreach topics?
We did get, we didn't get a lot of questions, but we did get a question about glass, as a matter of fact. And one of the participants was actually kind of upset to learn that her hauler is, I think it was county waste, that they weren't actually recycling the glass. Or it even sounded like they weren't even taking the glass, that they had made a change and they hadn't informed her. So she had some questions about the glass. Why wasn't it being recycled? And what was actually happening to the glass that was put in the recycling bin.
Interesting.
Were there others, Peggy? I'm trying to think. I think that was the main one.
That was the main one, but there were a couple of others. Just can't remember them now.
Yeah.
They didn't record that part of the webinar because they used people's names, and afterwards we were informed that they were going to delete that part because they actually shouldn't have said people's first and last names.
Wow. Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. So we also talked about litter and thinking about having some type of event to raise awareness around litter. And I haven't used this yet, but this Litterati is a way of mapping litter. I have so much litter, I don't even know where to begin, because I pick it up every single day when I go on my road. So, but you know, how to encourage people to use that. How do we get people picking up litter and raising awareness around that?
I pick up a lot of litter in Sugar Hollow, and I find the vast majority of it is beverage containers. And if there was a deposit, I just don't think that they would be lying around on the roadsides.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think, you know, so literati.org is a company I have worked with, and it would give us spatial information within our own county about the occurrence and types of litter. And I thought that might be sort of an interesting thing actually for us. Last year we talked a lot about litter. We haven't really done anything, but I think with all of the focus on ocean plastics and plastics in general, this could be kind of a cool event for us to do. So I was pretty jazzed about it.
Well, and the founder is a UVA grad.
I know him. I didn't know he went to UVA.
Yeah.
I know he lives in Berkeley now, I think. But yeah, so that's something that the communications subcommittee, I think we're gonna try to figure out how to work on this. But we had a question to, EJ about what would we need to do to try to make something happen, or Phil, like who do we talk to and who do we need to coordinate with? How would we pull something like this off? No feedback. Like, should we talk to Lance?
So generally speaking, my understanding is that SWAAC, whether it's the subcommittee or the full committee, works out a general recommendation, and then I would end up going to work with Kate, the communications group, in making it happen for y'all. So it would be a matter of teasing out exactly what your goals are. And any ideas you have towards meeting those goals. And then I would be tasked to work with staff on that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, committee, does that make sense to everybody?
So we would set our goals, and then we would sort of outline what do we anticipate the outcome and what we need from the communications in terms of getting that information out there to you.
Exactly. Often, the wonderful thing about having professionals in the communications department and presenting them with goals, not just how we think they should go about meeting those goals, is we put the goal in front of them, and they might have an idea, simply because of the nature of their work, a way to meet that goal that we didn't think about or the committee didn't think about. So it would be a combination of goals, outcomes, any ideas you have, things, best practices that you've seen that you can toss their way as well. And then I would start working with them.
So EJ, if we wanted to do a post about bears and trash, if I sent you information, then I don't have to actually create the final product. The people in your department can work on their magic.
Exactly. That is magic that happens in Cape. Yes, absolutely.
So this is Serena. I'm going to jump in here. Yeah. I would also say that though the post would come from the county social media, there is power in numbers. And if you all choose to be ambassadors of those posts and share them and reshare them on your personal social media accounts, that will spread farther than just having the post on the county social media. So if you're interested in helping the messaging, then you can kind of be an ambassador for those posts.
I'll have to get over my phobia of social media.
I will say that Cape has touted me as a fan favorite, because when I go on my social media, I repost everything the county does. And so one person can make a difference, and y'all are very, very well connected as individuals. And so Serena's absolutely right. You can definitely heighten the awareness simply by reposting whatever campaign parts go on the county site.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, that is helpful. And thank you for that clarification, because I was like, how can I create this? And that was a real stopping point for me. So that is helpful to know the next step.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And
then finally, we talked about this county-wide survey. And I think, Anne, you had attached that great infographic that after you get this asking people these questions that you have listed here, and then being able to create an infographic to actually get a snapshot of where people are in terms of their awareness and where there are gaps.
Yeah, this tied to the survey we'd like to do. And I think, again, EJ and Serena, I think we're looking for some guidance if we wanted to do a county-wide survey and do it on an annual basis, so we could have some consistent baseline information and then report it out through the website, through something like this infographic. Can you give us some guidance on what we need to do to make it happen?
I would say that maybe EJ and I would think about what other projects in the county could align with this work, so that when we put a survey out into the community, it's maybe it can be very strategic, but also, we don't want to over survey the community so we want maximum responses, which means that if we had, say with the climate action plan, or we have stream health initiative, there's potentially some alignment with other programs and projects that are happening that we could bring more kind of force alongside the questionnaire or survey.
Sure. All right.
So I'm sorry. So we should generate sort of a list of questions and then prioritize those questions. And then at that point you'll have them and be able to, you'll know how much space you have.
Yeah, I'd say general content that you want to know from people, but then also questions that might be appropriate to learn from people what you're trying to figure out. And then, trying to work with the other project teams to say, would these questions work with the things that you're trying to learn from the community? So we can, and that might not be the case. We might do a questionnaire based solely on your questions. But, I want to have the opportunity to see if we can, reduce the amount of questions that we're asking the community over the year. So again, people don't get fatigue from filling out questions over time.
No, that sounds great. So I think we can start working on that. And then can we give you an action item to sort of look, let us know what other outreach surveys may be going on that might be likely fits for us, if any of them are?
Absolutely. Yeah, once we have the general, content or what you're looking for sure, I can find out if anyone is doing similar work or kind of aligned work.
Okay, that sounds great. Good. And I didn't know, did people have a chance to see that infographic? It was one that I had that I just thought was pretty simple and clear, that we sort of used it as a thing to focus our conversation around, but that doesn't have to be the case. So certainly if somebody doesn't like it or thinks we should do something else, please let us know. So if there are no other questions for the communication committee, why don't we turn it over to you, Jesse, to do the report out on the operations subcommittee. Are you muted by any chance?
I was muted.
Okay.
All right. So we met via Zoom a couple weeks ago. We had discussed membership at one point and becoming a group that needed to meet publicly. But since it's now me and Tom again, that has not been a requirement. That said, Tom, Charisse, Phil, Liz, Donna, and EJ and myself all got together to discuss sort of the future of what's going to be the operations committee. We brainstormed ideas for a while, discussing the Better Bin app, which I'll let Phil sort of talk about. But we settled on two goals, which are to support the opening of the IVMUC, right? We feel that, the opening of the IVMUC convenience center, recycling center. We feel it's important to engage with the public about this new opportunity and its replicability across Albemarle. We also want to work out the same question that Terry alluded to in the beginning, which how do we get the last mile details associated with large end users of glass? That could be wineries, that could be breweries, that could be bottlers, that could be anybody. But how do we get them together, as Ann described, in order to work out these details of how do we actually get material from the brewery, winery, bottler, for example, to somewhere like Ivy in a roll-off form where it can be transported down to Wilson.
Great.
For those who are on the call, any thoughts, notes, concerns? Phil, we will get to the app per the agenda. Anything else? I'm going to propose a next meeting at 1 o'clock on September 25th on Friday. If that works for folks, I'll send something around. If it doesn't, tell me now, tell me later.
I'm sorry, that was 1 o'clock on September 25th?
That's right. That's a Friday.
Okay.
That's right after lunch on Friday.
Okay, great.
So with that said, Phil, would you like to talk about the Better Bin app?
Appreciate people's comments, their feedback. I guess because I'm cautious by nature, I would just like some feedback, I guess, from everybody. Do people think this is going to be helpful? Especially being that it's in a developmental phase now. Will this help people recycle better? Do you think it'll, I mean, there's a lot of values it could potentially have, but I just sort of would like some feedback because we're getting down to that point where we're going to pull the trigger on releasing it into the wild, so to speak, or not. And I think once it's out there, then it's a little hard to get back in the barn. I think in general, as far as where it's at, it's kind of at the point, other than a few little buggy things that people noticed, it's kind of close to where it is, if you will.
Bill, my sense was it seems to work great for national brands and products. There's something weird with the Trader Joe's barcodes. They didn't work. And I think part of it is they're short one letter or one number. But we do a lot of shopping there and none of my Trader Joe stuff worked. And so I tried to give them that feedback and say, I think there's something different about their barcodes than the others because I noticed it was one number short. And I think that particular issue, I think we have a lot of people in our community who shop at non-national brands. So I do think that's an important thing for us to cover if it's going to be useful, particularly for, I think, a lot of people who are the likely recyclers. So, I mean, that was just sort of my observation. I thought in general, it worked really well. Personally, I probably would not use it unless it was something really weird because stopping and having to take a picture of things. So it would be those things that I have the question about, like the oddball stuff, like my dog food bag or something like that. I was trying to find a lot of those examples to make sure it worked on those oddball things. And it was really clear, like, you cannot recycle this, do not, do not take this to Ravenna. And then it brought up the question for me, would it cause confusion between the Charlottesville system, which is probably going to have a broader suite of materials it will collect through single stream, even if they don't recycle them, versus our drop off? And, I was curious how they were going to handle that.
I think even trying to find out what is what does the curbside program accept and not accept, I think is pretty kind of difficult right now. I don't think they have very clear instructions on what goes in, and I think to some extent that's because they don't care a whole lot what you put in the bin. Not to be rude, but you know, they're going to pull the cardboard out, they're going to pull the aluminum out, and hey, picking up trash. Cool.
We got the list from them, but I tend to agree with you because, you know, they were open that they were collecting cartons but not recycling them. And so I think that, you know, if that's the case, I mean, I think we can be clear then that this is, you know, this is the, you know, I think our list of materials are really commonly recycled and could definitely go in their bin. But I would think I would use our program as the benchmark as for that. But that's a little bit of a hitch. I can see that, you know, they may say because of the county waste program that you can put cartons in, you can put 3 through 7s in, and obviously we don't. So I just don't want to make sure that it creates a conflict between our drop off and
Curbside.
the curbside. Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about or wondering for the people, you know, that go to the recycle center and throw obvious trash into the recycle, like a, you know, like a plastic lawn chair or something like that. Those people are not going to be the people who are going to use this app, I would assume. I guess where I came across was, gosh, either, you know, if it's a box, it's paper, it's going to go in there. If it's 1s and 2s, we go in there, everything else gets thrown away, plastic wise, except for the plastic bags. The plastic bags were where I saw the most value in the thing. By far. And, you know, and I gave you my feedback, Phil, that I too couldn't get Trader Joe's stuff to work. And so many people around here, you know, shop there. So, you know, it's kind of hard for us because we are, you know, we kind of know what to put in there. So we probably wouldn't use it as much. So you know, I'm kind of at a loss as to how the public will respond to it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the feedback I think, Phil, I gave you is that, you know, I think moving forward, it's hard to evaluate that question without putting it in front of just total stranger people that are not us.
I got your message. I think that's a good idea, is to run another little test, as it were. Can I ask you the question, rephrase the question this way? Do you think there's a downside in putting it out there? Like, is this, you know, maybe it doesn't solve all the world's problems, but does it hurt anything? I know that's not an aspiring.
I don't think it hurts anything unless for some reason curbside users want to use our drop off and, you know, they get some miscommunication. And that's why I think I would like to see the, you know, it base its decision on what's recyclable on our program, not the Charlottesville program.
No, it's 100% based on our program.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, it's not for, if you will, anything else other than our 2 centers.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think it downside then.
Yeah, I just hear, you know, the complaints, well, it doesn't work on this, it doesn't work on that. So maybe some people's frustration on it, you know, not doing Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't see a downside.
Okay.
So Phil, I mean, if that's one of the biggest drawbacks, you know, there was that process where you could like notify them of a product that you scanned that wasn't in there. How does that work to add things to their database? Or is there a process to do that? And, you know, can we get them to focus on Trader Joe's stuff before we release it here?
So there's a couple ways to skin that cat. One is, before you do any of this stuff, you go out and there's companies that are like data aggregation companies that own all the UPC data. And I think there's a couple of them actually. And that information is valuable for like Kroger would have a license for that information so that they can upload it to theirs and associate costs with those UPCs, and the checkout person scans them through and it's all the data's there, and they know what's what. Unfortunately, that's expensive data because it's a lot of labor to keep it up to date. They've, and it's a game between the different companies that have this data. The data is kind of gold. They have their bulk of data and other people have their data. And so there's, to start off with, if you could buy all the data, then life's all of a sudden easy because everything scans. None of us have that cost, and I forget what the numbers were, but they're significant numbers. They're not hundreds or a few thousands of dollars. They're tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars kind of for that database. So what she's trying to set up is she has some data, like about 100,000 items. And they're going to have, or she has reportedly a group of people that are like almost interns that are going to help her research data as those things that you scanned in and said, hey, what's this? To update it sort of manually. And then the long term is sort of an automation of all that, where you start to, where they want to develop machine learning. So the machine actually, the app that your phone connects to actually looks at that and says, hey, I don't care if that's Dr. Pepper or Diet Pepsi, that's a bottle, put it in here. Because it recognizes that bottle, or it recognizes, okay, these are the Ritz crackers with sparkly bits on them. We don't care about the sparkly bits. It's in a cardboard box, throw it in there. That's where they want it to head. And then they don't have to play the game as much about this bag, this brand, whether that's the 16-ounce size or the 14.4 or the whatever.
That's interesting you describe it that way, Phil, because there's a company called Amp Robotics, and that's exactly the algorithm. They're robots that are working on sorting, and they're all AI because they recognize the form and the material. So they're very, very precise in sorting. So, I mean, what you're describing that their app is moving towards is very similar. I'm just wondering whether, obviously I did that where it didn't recognize it. So I told them what it was. So, she's adding to her database that way. I'm wondering if we could just reach out to the general manager of our local Trader Joe's and ask them, would they have any interest in participating, because they could share that information. They could be we can say, hey, we're trialing this thing, but none of your stuff works.
But I don't think they can share the information. That's what I'm getting at, because I'd have to look up what the name of these companies would, but let's call it Company A. Company A provides Trader Joe that information. And the actual Trader Joe's uses that information.
Yeah.
Like Trader Joe doesn't own their own UPC, so to speak.
Well, I mean, we could also, they could go through and, they could add their top 100 or 200 most sold items for us.
Yeah, I mean, this is a recurrent issue that we've had since the beginning, is the database needs to be bigger.
Yeah.
Because there is, I don't know about you, but it was frustrating to me when, and I didn't go to Trader Joe. I went to Harris Teeter, and the house brand, it doesn't know what that is.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
What is it possible to just, is it going to be presented as a pilot program when it's rolled out? And sort of the idea would be to get people, our community, on board to make it better. I mean, if it's going to learn as it goes along, and if it's presented as, it's not in its complete and final stage, and that we actually ask people to participate in making the app better. And by using it and giving feedback, they will, just as we did, but we simply open that up to more people. And maybe if it's presented in that way, it kind of changes the expectation a little bit.
Yeah, that's always been the plan, is that this is going to be presented as beta, but you know, I guess what my worry is, you don't want it to be too beta, even if it's that, because hey, I've got this idea for a car and all I have is the wheel. You know, you go, hey, I'm not buying it.
I agree with you.
You want it kind of something you can extrapolate mentally what it could do, right?
Yeah.
So that you're enthused to help participate in getting it there.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't COVID, we could tap into, you know, little green teams that could go into a store and just, you know, build it for us, right? But since we can't have people go in and do that right now, we're a little bit limited. But I think the idea of piloting it with a group and perhaps a group of enthusiastic participants, you know, who, you know, we can explain some of the limitations and that we're looking for people to sort of trial it and help grow it. So that we don't get the one wheel, you know, reaction to it.
Does it so it doesn't get Harris Teeter, it doesn't get Trader Joe's, it gets 365 brand. What else doesn't it? I mean,
those are all private brands. Those are all.
I mean, there are other private brands that it doesn't get. I mean, does it get Kroger brand?
I have a feeling it's going to have a problem with any house brands because they're regional, they're not national. I mean, you know, she says it's got 100,000 some odd items in it, but if you walk into a grocery store and just look down a shelf, you know, you go, wow, 100,000 doesn't get you past aisle 2.
Yeah. Well, house brands are the fastest growing part of anything. So we really need to have the house brands included. But I think they'd want to be included because they're making the same kind of commitments that national brands are. So it'd be good to have a conversation with her about that and just what is the strategy to get those house brands in? And, you know, is it that we grow it physically? People have to go scan the items and build the database, or those house brands may not own the UPC codes, but they have a lot of power over them. So, right. You know, that's a conversation we could have. I work with the sustainability director of Kroger, and Kroger owns Harris Teeter.
Yeah.
So, you know, that would be an interesting conversation because I think they are anxious to make sure that the recyclability of their products are communicated. You know, Walmart is the largest grocer in the United States, and same thing, they have very extensive recycling commitments. So same thing, I think that they would want to be part of something. And they have huge power over there.
Maybe that's another avenue, is instead of us, you know, I'm just sort of mentally spitballing here, but take some of those contacts that you have that she doesn't have. In a sense, you've got the power that she needs, is to try and work, funny enough, work through us a little bit to help make her object better so it helps us. But you know, those kind of contacts, I mean, here's the thing, they're not trying to, you know, this app is fairly simple. It's not price comparison. It's not doing anything other than saying it comes in a bottle, you know, this kind of bottle or this kind of bag. I think the risk for somebody to share their data is actually pretty low, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I think it's very low for something like this.
Yeah.
All right. That sounds good. So
let me talk with her about it then.
Yeah, I was going to say, Phil, maybe we ought to just have a follow-up conversation, make that the action item on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like, it's kind of like citizen, instead of citizen scientists, it's like citizen recyclers, you know, where like become one of our citizen recyclers. Like, I mean, I think people get excited about citizen science type projects where they know that their action is contributing to a,
yeah, I mean,
it's a larger effort.
Yeah, it'd be crowdsourcing this information to make it better. And I think people would get into that.
I love that, Terry, citizen recyclers for trying the app. That's really great.
So, so that's good. I think we have some clear action on that. So Jesse, you want to keep pushing us forward?
Yeah, the agenda helps. So what do we want to do about the outreach and engagement with the community involving the new recycling center at Ivy? Phil sent out, Phil, I mean, you want to talk to us?
Yeah, I think Margaret's got the winning contribution. I just tweaked it a little bit for layout lengthwise, because I'm thinking these are going to be more longer than squarer. But yeah, it's just a matter of getting them. Here would be the next steps as I see it. Get them printed, get them sent in to print. That's going to be at the rate they're going right now. For whatever reason, COVID has made everybody want to print banners. Be a couple weeks out, but then I need to talk to the school system, the library. We can put the one on our own in McIntyre. Where was the other one? Western Albemarle, Crozet
It was
Library.
on the road, wasn't it? Like the turnoff to.
Yeah, 64.
Yeah, we can't put one
It was
there.
listed I-64. I don't know.
Yeah, we can get. I'll continue working that, getting informational signs on the secondary roads. We can't, or by law, we're allowed to put anything on I-64.
Okay, so this sounds like something where we definitely want to have the county social media support. Is there specific information about Ivy Muck on the website? I have to go look. We could do something there, but I don't think that's going to be super visible. I think so social media will help. I'm wondering if this is an opportunity for us to use, can we do a public service announcement on this, on the local radio stations and news and stuff like that?
We often get, if we put out a press release, we'll get, like Channel 29 will send somebody over to do a thing about it, you know,
Yeah,
15-second splash on the nightly news.
yeah. I think that would be great. And then the any local radio that seems appropriate.
Phil, I had a question about the hours at Ivy Muck. Is
Okay.
the convenience center going to have the same hours that Ivy Muck has? It's not going to have the same as McIntyre, right?
Correct.
Okay. I used the recycling center, and there were a lot of people using it. It seemed like the bins were pretty full.
We've noticed an uptick just in the last month. I think I sent everybody a mock-up of our big street signage that we were considering. The one went up at Ivy, and I think it's much more visible, and it'll have now a nameplate on it, or a message plate. So when it's the holidays, you know, Labor Day, closed Labor Day, and we'll be able to actually have people that they don't have to drive all the way down the driveway to find out whether it's open or closed.
Oh, cool.
So that's coming. I don't know if McIntyre went in today or it's going in soon, but all the permits have been done.
Hey, Phil, are there people outside of the county that use Ivy Muck? Do we track that at all?
Not.
Ivy always asks your city or county when you go there.
Yeah,
I go to Ivy and McIntyre pretty regularly. I don't know that they do any actual verification, but they do ask when you pull up to the scale.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm asking is when we did our thing on America Recycles Day last fall, there were a number of Waynesboro people who were using McIntyre, and they were pretty upset that Waynesboro had shut down their drop off. But we also had a guy who had a truck who came in and was recycling because he picks it up from his neighborhood, which was in some other county, and he brought it to McIntyre to recycle. So he was offering that service to his neighbors. And then, you know, they were bringing it. So I was just going to say, I would think there might be interest from other people, because I don't know if there are recycling, you know, convenience centers in Nelson or Augusta.
Well,
So
Nelson,
certainly Nelson has them.
Nelson, actually, I was going to bring up Nelson County a little later. Liz and I have talked about this several times. My son-in-law works in Nelson County, and they have a house over there, and I've house sat, dog sat a number of occasions, and one of their 6, if I believe I've got it correct from Liz, one of their 6 free convenience centers is right down the road. Yeah, 6 free. You know, here at Ivy, we've got $2 bag, tag a bag, and I'm 40 minutes away from that, or, McIntyre for recycling, but no trash or garbage. So I think Albemarle County is substantially behind at least some of our neighboring counties in terms of both accessibility and cost for the residents. And Liz and I have, we were actively working to try and expand the convenience centers in Albemarle County, and then the pandemic and the budget reductions and everything hit. But yeah, Nelson has some beautiful convenience centers, free. They do garbage and
Are they staffed, Donna?
they do have one person there, but much like at, McIntyre or Ivy, they do not actually check to see if you're from the county. And I'll acknowledge that, though I'm staying at my son-in-law's house in Nelson County, taking garbage from his house, a little self-conscious with, my Albemarle County supervisor sticker on the back of my car. But I don't drive to Nelson County to drop off my recycling. But yeah, they do have someone there. But again, I don't think they actively track where the dropping things off are from.
So the committee, for those people who have been on the committee for a long time, they'll remember that Nelson County was hiring part-time workers. Retired people, for the most part, are part-time workers to kind of come in there and do things. I go to the Faber one from time to time, and they've actually stopped taking most of the recycling. They're still taking the trash. Usually there's no one there whenever I go in there. So I think they're probably having a hard time keeping it staffed. I don't know. And I know there's people in Albemarle County that drive in there because they never ask, because some of the people down in Schuyler tell me they just go over there.
Mm-hmm.
But they have it paid for through their through their taxes, which is something we were never willing to do, to put a line item or anything on there for trash collection, which is a whole nother issue. Sorry, I brought that up. Can I say one more quick thing though about people from other areas using the IVMUC? I mentioned this at the Ops Committee, but I just want to really quickly tell you that Quality Disposal, which is a Greene County company, is under new management. I met the new owner. She's a young woman with 2 school-age children, and she is doing a kind of a concierge thing where she is picking up. She has a small truck. They have small vehicles. They go down the driveways. They'll go into your garage if you ask them to. They pick up source separated recycling. She was absolutely thrilled that Ivy was open, that she could bring her stuff there. Her metal is going up to a Greene County facility, but everything else now is going to Ivy, and she's only picking up those things that we recycle here. So I thought that was that's the kind of business we always talked about that we hoped would get going.
Right.
And it was really great to see it happening. So.
Oh, that's cool. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
I'm a little anxious about time, guys. It's 5:10 and we still have a number of items. So Jesse, did we cover, support for Phil on the Ivy Muck issue? I think we captured a number. I think I would like to identify the person. Phil, do you want anybody to help you? We gave you a lot of ideas, but do you want somebody else to help with any aspect of this? And if so, let's try to identify that person now.
If possible. So what I see forward is just regarding, this is regarding the opening thing. I'm going to move forward with the VDOT signage on the secondary roads, but that's going to be a long-term thing. We need to get a message, which I'll send out to the group then, which will form the basis of the media blast and everything else. But I want to try and hold for a second doing that until I get a chance to talk to the library and the schools about getting the banners up, and so that they all sort of roll out at the same time.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah. And if you want some additional support, just, send out an email and we'll get somebody to help you out.
Okay. Whenever that draft statement is, just if everybody could just take a peek at it and make sure I'm not saying something rude or stupid.
All right.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Phil. Jesse, we had this next action item for your committee.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I have an answer for you about how to address an audit and benchmark contamination in collected recyclables. It's something that we talked about, I believe, when we met. It wasn't something that we took on as a next step. So what do I do with it?
So I think this is really critical. If we're going to have conversations about how we want to improve the quality of our recyclables, let's benchmark how contaminated they are. So I think we need to do some, audits of each of those roll-offs. And what I'd like to do is we need to do it over time. There's, I'm sure I could get one of our engineers to give us the methodology for doing that. But I think it'd be pretty simple. You can do sampling over time and then you sort the sample and categorize the thing, but we just to make sure, and we'd have to do it then again, after any programs to make sure we're moving in the right direction. But I think benchmarking the levels of contamination now seems like a critical thing. I don't think the audit methodology is that challenging. So what I could do is just get one of my engineers on a call with us, or have him write up a proposed methodology, because we do this stuff all the time. And then the question becomes, how do we execute it? During COVID, can we do it when the thing is closed and we just have, one or two people go in there and do it? But that was my thinking about that. If that sounds like an approach people think would be a good idea. And Phil, I'd be interested in your feedback, especially.
So can I just throw out this is a question. Do you have to dig through the trash, each bin, to do an audit? I just wondered, could you take a photograph of the audit at a set time? If the cans get emptied on Tuesday, do it Wednesday evening, photograph of each bin. We send that out to whoever the audit team is. That way we can do it virtually, and everybody just does a count and an approximate volume, or whatever you want to do. It won't be by weight, but you could do something like that.
I can ask you. I mean, that's exactly what you do. You empty the bunker and then you let things run you need to have a set amount of time. So, and then you weigh what came in over that set amount of time, and then you sort it. I can ask Carrie if we can do that. So in other words, if you had roll-offs that were empty, and then you wouldn't want to have more than the floor, because we need to get good visual of the whole floor, but you just need to know how much time passed between, when you started and stopped. But that's basically the methodology that, you do for auditing. We just did an incredibly complex one up at a glass plant in New York. But that's generally how we could do it, Phil. And then we'd want to do that methodology over time, we just compare it. So yeah, I mean, if that would work, absolutely.
It would give you some volumetric numbers, not actual mass, but.
Yeah, so that's where I have to, well, there are some bulk density, things you can assume about certain materials. I would need to talk to my engineer about how to do it. Like, what would be a really accepted methodology for doing that. Getting into the, the sampling methodology that I'm describing, you just go and you sample at a set time every day and you pull out a certain amount of weight, you put it in another bin and you wait until you get enough and then you sort that. So the sampling methodology is a little bit different, but it does require you to do that physical sort and weigh. So that's, I can't make those decisions, but our engineering team does that all the time. So they could maybe ask, let us know what they think would be the most rigorous way to do that. But I like the photo idea. That would be simple, but I do think we need the weight.
Could you do
Phil,
something
can
with
you
the
ask
time
for-
lapse? Like set up a camera and do multiple shots as it fills?
We could, and then we just need to know the final weight of the roll of whatever comes off. At some point you need the weight. So I'll take that under advisement and see if I can get us something to ponder next month. But I want to keep that one on the agenda because I think that is for the ambassadors program. We want to measure the effectiveness of that program, and our metric for it is really, are commodities getting, are they improving?
Phil, could you get feedback from your in buyers? In other words, talk to the glass people and say, hey, we really need this feedback. We're going to ask you for it periodically, but can you give us feedback? Because that's their business. They're pretty good at examining those types of things and saying that's 5% contaminated.
Yeah.
They base their payments to people on those levels a lot of times.
Yeah. So glass gets hauled once a month down to Wilson, and it gets dumped on the floor, so to speak, and they run it through their process. They tell us how much weight we deliver to them, but I don't think they do any sort of, like, there's no beginning and end. It gets thrown in a conveyor belt sort of process, and it goes in some, depending on how the loader loads it, some goes in today, some goes out, and I don't know if there's any way for them to determine how ours looks.
I think you'd be surprised if you asked them,
okay,
could you examine our loads? Because that's their business. If it's, they know your stuff is great. I actually almost took a job with those folks, the glass specifically. And, it was all based on, what the contamination levels, and curbside was 30% and your stuff is 5%. And, they're pretty good at doing that. So I think they have the capacity to do it because they adjust people's prices month to month based on how it's coming in.
I think that's great feedback, Tom. And I think SMI, they're going to, we're delivering them close to bottle bill state material. And I want to make sure that we would be receiving the benefit of that. Because when you see commingled glass, it looks like paper. It's just filled with shredded paper. It's terrible. And as long as we don't have people putting window panes in and crazy stuff like that, or ceramics, those are the big watch outs. So, I think that's really good. And this actually, there's a discussion item I have on here. So I actually had a call with the head of recycling at Sunoco this past month talking about our program. I was talking to them about a bunch of other stuff, but this came up. I told them that they service our program. And I invited Patrick to actually come and speak to us. So he's the head of recycling for Sunoco. And I was asking him about what is their alignment with the How to Recycle label and with some of the new information coming out of the AFMPA and West Rock on the recyclability of pizza boxes. And he said they are absolutely aligned with both How to Recycle and on pizza boxes. And I said, well, that's interesting because we've received conflicting information on that. So I said, it would be really helpful, I think, to get feedback from you on what we need to be aiming for in terms of quality. And because we want to put in this ambassadors program, we want to focus on improving our commodities so we can get the best price we can, but we need guidance. We need to know what your bale spec is or something else. And he said he would be happy to talk to us. he was also going to dig up the bale specifications that they use. And he, you know, he was from different parts of your organization. He goes, yeah, we recognize that. Sorry, I'm getting the unstable internet message. But he said, we realize that's a challenge. And if you talk to different people in the organization, you may get different answers, but our position is this. So I think, you know, since they do process a number, you know, he runs recycling, he's very familiar with the Raleigh MRF, but he's also familiar with their mills, which, you know, you talk to different procurement people if you're direct marketing to a mill. But I thought, to the point you made, Tom, about can they give us the guidance on what is quality? You know, it seems like we should have, you know, a good discussion with him about that. So we're all clear on that. So I just wanted to give that update. And they're very amenable to it. They were, you know, very pleased to participate if we wanted to do that. So if people don't think that's a bad idea, I will go ahead and invite Patrick to a later meeting. And that's all I had on that. So Jesse, I think we can, yeah, let's see. I will look it up. Let me just quick look it up. How about while I'm doing that, and I will put it in the chat, Phil, can we move to the vision committee?
Okay, Navarre's joined us now too. So unfortunately, we didn't have a meeting. Teddy is very busy right now. And I hope we can get her together on a short meeting with us soon. She did make inquiries with the city about the bag tax, and they are so busy with their climate action planning right now. It's just not really something that they are looking at right now. And Teddy thinks that we should take the initiative to find out how it would be implemented and then bring the city up to speed, because she does think that they would it's something that they would also like to do. I talked to the tax commissioner's office. They're still developing the guidelines for implementation of the bag tax, plastic bag tax. And they said that they will let me know when they've been developed. It's sort of a chicken and the egg thing too, though, because they said that no counties have enacted the ordinance yet. So, you know, they don't feel that rush to produce the guidelines, I think. So that's where we are. No committee, no locality can enact the ordinance before January 1st of 2021. So I think they feel they have a bit of time, but if you wanted to act that quickly, you'd need to know what the guidelines are. So we will work on that in our next meeting, and we will hopefully have a better idea of what would be involved. I don't know of the places that have a bag tax, I don't think you could really compare the revenue that DC gets from it, for example, wouldn't compare with what Albemarle County would get, I imagine. But it would still be interesting if we could find out more about what's involved, where taxes have been implemented.
You know, the feedback I got from Teddy is she's going to be really busy until the election. Do you think we should have an interim sort of lead to make sure you guys have meetings and keep pushing things forward in the meantime, Peggy? Because she sort of indicated to me she was going to be a bit out of pocket through,
Yeah.
November.
I wasn't really clear if that meant she couldn't even participate in a phone call, or so Navarre and I can meet, or do you want to meet with us?
I'd be happy to join you. Yeah. Why don't you just reach out to her and find out about that? But, I think things like trying to find a date for the meeting and coordinate people, that's probably a bit much for her right now. So
Sure.
maybe somebody else could take that on in the meantime.
Okay.
I would just want to let you guys know that I listened in on the Piedmont Environmental Council roundtable, and that was the topic. The main topic was the bag tax, and it sounded like that they were going to try to continue to, create sort of a coalition of interested parties to help push that forward as well.
You said PEC?
Yeah, the PEC roundtables. So there were people from Sierra Club and like tree stewards and just a wide range of people that joined in on that.
Do you know who from PEC was heading that up?
Well, I think Sean Tubbs.
Well, he just left PEC, so.
Oh,
left.
no, I didn't know that. Was it Rex Linville then?
Yes. So Rex said he was going to send a follow-up about that. There were several people who were interested in, working on that topic.
Great. Yeah, I would think so.
So Peggy, do you have, or Navarre, do you guys have anything else on planning and vision? I suspect you guys have not had a chance to sort of discuss goals or anything like that for this year.
No, we haven't.
Okay. All right. If that's it, let's move on to the last part of the agenda. And EJ, this is normally where I would ask you or Lance, what updates do you have for us from what you all are doing?
I will say that first, Lance is sorry that he wasn't able to be here for many reasons, so I'm pinching for the team tonight. I will give you a short update on the GBB study. We are meeting next week to take a look at their first draft of the task 1 deliverable. They have been interviewing everyone from, really doing a nice job of dovetailing their work with the city and the information they've gotten from the city with interviews with Charisse and Phil, some of our Fez folks as well, with really that guiding the idea that we are wanting, we can create as much as we can, well, really what we can fund, what we can put out there. So the idea is to think broadly, to think collaboratively, because we work best in this community, I think, when we do collaborate with our partners. And so that's been their focus for the interviews and for the information gathering. And so for the next meeting in October, we'll have a good idea of where task 1 has landed and have a map forward for the second task. And if I'm not sure if y'all remember when Kate came to y'all, she let you know that we can, each task is discrete. It has a deliverable that we can either build on in the second task, or we can take that if for whatever reason we can't go any further. We can take that one deliverable and actually build on it. So keeping that in mind, that we are building a platform up, and each task will have a report out for y'all. I think it was task 4 or 5. I'm drawing a blank on which one it was, where we were going to come back to SWAAC for heavy involvement at that point. But in October, we'll give a good report out for where task 1 has landed us.
Great. Thank you for that. Well, good. Anything else for us, or should I move on?
I think that's it. And I know that Phil has sent me the Ivy Muck letter, and we know that that's going to be a push out to the CACs, to the community committees, as soon as we get through this weekend with our statue. I'll be circling back around with Serena and closing the loop and letting y'all know when that actually goes out to them.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
And other than that, we're good.
All right, super. Thank you very much. And good luck with the statue.
Thank you.
So this is kind of a standing item, but we do have open seats on the SWAAC, and you know, some of our subcommittees are you know, a little underrepresented. So please keep thinking about who might be a good nomination to sit on the SWAAC committee and send those along. I do not have any new business that wasn't discussed already. So how about anybody else? Is there anything else folks want to bring up?
I do. I just want to mention that I talked to Teddy earlier today, and she asked me if I would please bring up the $7,000 for the roll-off and where that was. And I saw on the agenda, Ann, that you were looking into that. She wanted to make sure everybody knew that we know that, at least on the Democratic side, we know where she knows where all the signs are going. They're making a master list, and so they can really do a good job collecting them. She wants to make sure we get that in, at least if humanly possible.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I will reach out to them ASAP. Plus I'm really getting ill with all of the polypropylene that's getting thrown out in my house right now. We have some really, really big yogurt eaters in my house. So every time I throw out my trash, I'm looking at those containers. Okay, maybe make sure you put that as an action item for me, Peggy, to follow up with Braskem about that, or we're gonna have to come up with an alternative. So I think with that all.
Also, Ann, just quickly, please, and I'm sorry to interrupt. Just FYI for everyone, on October 7th at the Board of Supervisors meeting, we're expecting to have our climate action plan come through for its final adoption. So now is the time for people to review that and get any additional input in before that.
Thank you for that. I think a final thing is that we owe the Board of Supervisors one of our semi-annual reports. So subcommittee leads, we need to have, we can, I think, follow the format that we did on our last update. I can send that out, but I think we need to try to wrap that up by our next meeting. So with that all, we almost ended on time, just 4 minutes over. That's like a record for us. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Appreciate your participation, and stay safe. Talk to you next month. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
I